Hello, welcome to our Calvert Classic programming option. This option gives you, the parent or guardian, learning guide access to this online site for the curriculum, as well as access for your student. Students which will give them access to their classes. So notice here we have a student enrolled in some high school 9th grade courses, and they've started working in a couple of courses, so they can either click here to see their full curriculum or jump into a current assignment. Notice that as they work, the progress bar will increase. Let's start by going into Algebra 1. Algebra 1, Semester 1 has 134 activities. Module 1 is equations. Module 2 is inequalities. 3 is functions. 4 is linear functions. And 5 is systems of equations and inequalities. Each module has 1 to 2 units, and each unit ends in a quiz, and each module ends in a test. Let's go ahead and look at this lesson called Solving Two-Step and Multi-Step Equations. Here the student sees the objectives as well as a lesson introduction, and then each lesson has a series of video tutorials.
Solving two-step equations require more than one step to solve.
After watching the video tutorial, they'll then see an example followed by practice problems. They would then move to the next screen, and as they answer those questions, that number here, the questions remain, will decrease.
Equation.
So now they'll learn another way to solve two-step equations, followed by another practice example and some problems to solve. Usually there are 3 to 4 video tutorials as well as practice problems. And the last one is usually an application problem.
Let's do another.
And then it will end with a practice quiz. The nice thing with the practice quiz is once they answer the questions, they can go back to see which examples addressed which questions so that they can get some additional support before they move on. Once they complete the activity, in this case I didn't answer all of the questions, but if I wanted to submit it to you, the learning guide, I could, and then move on to the next assignment. You'll notice that the verb here on the left changes based on the student's progress. So any of them that say the review means that the students have submitted them. Any with continue mean that they're working on them. And begin means that they haven't started them, but they are available to start. Everything is wide open, so you can set pacing as well as what you want the students to complete or not complete. Let's go ahead and look at another course. Biology has a total of 6 modules: scientific, process, and life chemistry, followed by, that's this unit, cell structure, function, and processes. Module 3 is cell growth, division, and reproduction. 4 is genetics. 5, DNA, RNA, and biotechnology. And module 6 is human systems. There's a similar structure where the modules always end with a module test, and the units also have a quiz. So let's go ahead and take a look at this lesson, mitosis and cytokinesis. So here we'll give you some background information to the lesson. There is a brief video clip about cell division. Followed by another video clip specifically on mitosis. And now a more microscopic view of mitosis. Some text for the student to read. And then on the last screen, there will be some questions to answer. Let's look at a lab in biology. There are multiple types of labs. One is a hands-on lab where they will this one is where they'll create their own lab experience. And so using the scientific method, they'll set that up to create their own experience. Let's look at another lab. This one is testing pH, so using some common household goods, they'll be able to test pH. And if you're unable to get some of these lab equipments, you could decide to wait until a later date when you can come back to do the lab, or you can go ahead and complete the lab, or not complete the lab. That's up to you and your discretion. In the classic program, you have that option. There are another type of lab in here called Smart Science Labs. They are virtual labs, so this one is onion osmosis. If you would like access to these virtual labs, they come with when you purchase the program. You just have to request the username and password from our tech support, and they'll give you access to then complete the lab. Let's go into another course. Let's go into English 1, Survey of Literature. So Module 1 here is Plot and Conflict. Module 2, Character and Point of View. Module 3, Setting, Theme, and Symbol. Module 4, History, Culture, and the Author. Module 5, Author's Purpose. Module 6, The Language of Poetry. And so there is one novel that the students will read in English 1, which is Of Mice and Men, and they can choose to use the text that's embedded in the class, or they can purchase the book separately. There are other passages and snippets of novels that they'll read throughout the course, but this is the only one that we require for them to purchase. So if they decide to use the text that's embedded in our lessons here, you'll notice that, let me back up here. Let's find where it starts first. For example, here with parts 4 and 5. Oh, this is just an introduction. Alright, I'm going to skip that for now. So let's take a look at the gift of the Magi. And here we're asking them to write to thank. There's an audio clip. Here they can look at
Magi. The Magi mentioned in O. Henry's story.
Here's some background information on O. Henry, followed by some vocabulary they'll use in the lesson.
In this tutorial, you will learn to understand life is full of unexpected. You bring flowers to comfort a friend who is sick.
Once they complete the tutorial, then they'll focus on a reading strategy called Predict, and then move on to the next activity. In our English courses, we expect quite a bit of writing and reading, and so students will do that quite often. In government, the government course starts out as very philosophical and then moves into more of the practical and the applicable that's happening all around us. So modules 1 and 2 are very much that philosophical side of the foundations of government, as well as in module 2, the Constitution. Later on, they'll move into module 3, the legislative and executive branches. Module 4, the federal courts and the political process. Module 5, the judicial branch, and Module 6, government in action. And so throughout the course, they'll be examining these components of government at a federal and state level. And in second semester, when they move into the civics portion of the course, they'll look at government more in a local sense. Let's look at one lesson here. What is government? So there is a graphic organizer provided that they can use to take notes.
The purposes of government.
So that's a quick idea of what government is, and then there'll be a quick question for students to answer at the end. Lastly, let's look at a couple of elective courses that ninth graders might take, music appreciation being one of them. World language might be something of interest, and so we do offer Spanish and French. So let's start with music appreciation. They will have fewer modules here in the electives. This one is, Module 1 is History of Music. Module 2, also History of Music. Module 3, oh, I missed it. Style and Influences. Module 4, Influences and Applications. And that's it for the modules. And so there are fewer modules. Let's look at an example lesson. Let's look at voice. So here, students will move through the lesson. They may want to click on the link to learn a little more. And then there'll be a practice activity. This will be followed up by an assignment, and in this case, the assignment is that they're going to look at vocal styles as one portion, and then they're going to do a favorite artist or song assignment. Lastly, Spanish 1, Semester 1. Spanish also uses an external lab. In this case, we have a relationship with Rosetta Stone for their oral and oral practice labs. Tech support will be able to set you up with a username and password. So let's go ahead and look at the general structure of the course. Module 1, Bienvenidos, welcome. Module 2, Saludos y Presentaciones, so introductions and greetings. Module 3, De donde eres, where are you from? Module 4, La familia y las mascotas, family and pets. Module 5, ¿Cómo eres? How are you? And Module 6, La escuela, the school. So in each module, you'll notice that we have the lessons and the practice and the assignments, as well as the language lab from Rosetta Stone. And so each unit will have the vocabulary presentation, followed by grammar, and then later on culture. So let's take a look at vocabulary, pets. So the pets vocabulary will be presented with audio. So how many pets do you have? I have 2 rabbits. So they'll go through the audio, and then once they finish that practice, they'll, let's go back down here. They'll then go into the Rosetta Stone Language Lab for additional practice. We will guide them. We want them to focus on pets. And within the pets module, we also want them to do certain components. They can do more, but we're trying to present these in a way that we feel makes the most sense to their learning. but they can always go up and work beyond what we've assigned. Then they'll return to the system to do some practice now that they've had ample opportunity to practice, and now they can go ahead and choose the correct answer, just so we can see if they're understanding what they're learning. So that's a quick walkthrough of the student experience. Now, if we switch over to your role as the learning guide, you'll see that you also have the classes. And so if we go into that algebra class where your student completed some work, you can see what they've started and what they've completed. And then you'll have this orange bar notifying you that they've submitted the activity to you for grading. Anything without the orange bar, such as these two activities, do not require grading. Remember, graded activities are only labeled with CS, TR, or TS. So let's take a look at this activity. This was our first lesson. This is where you can see the lesson, all of the content.
Equation is like a
And so this is a good place to
Let's
review,
solve another application problem.
and you can see how the child responded versus the correct response. If you want to assign points at this point, you can. If you want to put in feedback, you can. However, it may be just a good time to sit one-on-one together and have a conversation about the work. Oops. That's a quick tour